Hey guys, um, still trying to catch up with myself here lately. And one of the big reasons, well, another one of the big reasons I've been so infrequent with these is just because I wasn't really stepping up to the plate like I needed to. There was directions that I know that God wanted me to go that I didn't feel like I was ready to go to yet. So for a while, I just kind of went and hid in a cave like Elijah, still trying to chat with God, still trying to do my thing with God, and God was still expecting more and more and more. And I mentally, emotionally, I guess, just wasn't there. So I just kind of put everything on pause. I wasn't doing what I should have been doing. I was doing what I shouldn't have been doing. Building bridges I shouldn't have been building. And then just seeing how things have been going lately, just overall. It's like God just brought me to a fork in the road. It's like, you can't keep hiding in this cave forever, kid. You gotta pick one or the other. You make a choice opposite me. What have you done for the last 10, 15 years of your life? You make this choice with me, you just gotta explain what you've done for the last several months. Huh. And one of the biggest things for me was that everything God's been working on me with for a while there, he was talking about giving me a backbone of steel. I remember that pretty easy because he couldn't have been more clear about it. And just the things God's been developing in me that I've also kind of tried to make into a hybrid of how I like it. You know, a lot more of God and of just being straightforward and to the point, and a lot less of me invested in it. And we can look all through the Bible and see that's not really how God rolls. You know, Jesus was tried to always be available. He always put himself out there. And when Paul wasn't in prison, he tried to do the same thing. And that's the kind of thing that I want, that I'm trying to get to. It's just that the problem with it is it requires more of me. And that was where the choke point was for me. So, just kind of been struggling with that, playing tug of war with that emotionally a lot. Just kind of almost hiding from God. And then I'd catch myself and be like, wait, no, this sucks. What do I do? And then God tell me again. And then I remember why I was hiding in the first place. But time for that needs to be over now. That is a scary time. You know how Paul is talking to the Corinthian church, and he's talking about trying to get them all on the straight and narrow, get them all straightened out. So then they can be in a position to judge things among themselves without that hypocrisy coming in, without God having to just, if God's going to judge one thing, he's going to judge it across the board. And, within that church, like if, say, somebody higher up in the church was stealing something, and then they were getting onto just one of the, not really peasants, but one of the regulars, whatever you want to call them, for stealing. If there's going to be judgment, that person high up is going to get it just as bad. And personally, I like the grace of God. It gives me that comfort knowing I can screw up, get right, and then still be with God. But stepping up, starting to make statements, getting rid of the gray area in Christianity, making it just black and just white. That there's less grace when you walk that line. And that's what I was scared of for a long time. But if that's what I've been working toward all this time, is what it is, man, So that's something that has actually been terrifying for me, knowing that when I cross that, when I start going down that way, it's harder to just turn around and go back. Because to be honest, I like what I got going on. I like that I can just kind of come and go. I like that I have been self-centered enough that I can just keep it about me and God and not have to really involve other people. That's all got to go away. Can't be about hiding anymore. I was reading an article last night or this morning talking about when people are leaving the church, where do they go? In this article, it was just focused on Christians. I think it was a Christian website that wrote the article. And then it was like, I think the percentage was like 30% of people leaving the church. They don't really plan on coming back. They are self-proclaimed as being done with church. But the author was clear to point out that they weren't giving up on God, they were giving up on church. And they liked the idea more of what the author said was a New Testament church, where it was small, grassroots, organic, and drawing the differences, pointing them out between what these duns were wanting out of church and what the institutional church was providing. It's just, the differences are just obscene. You think, you go back to that time of innocence that we had with God when we first got saved, just full of hope and wonder and emotion, and just high as a kite with God. Nothing can get us down. And then people start coming around telling us how this is wrong and this is right and it has to be done this way. This is how it is. This is what God likes. And half the time they don't even know what they're talking about, but we fall for it because they act like they know what they're saying. And then that's the rut we get stuck in. And then what? 20, 30 years later, we just can't put up with it anymore and just tear ourselves apart from God altogether, just because that's what we were trained to see him to see him as. I used to associate myself with certain churches, with certain Christians. And then, I don't know, maybe it was a year or so ago, God told me to just disassociate, just push out, be on my own. And that was, yeah, I can do that. And then I start seeing why. I said, God, what's happening with these people? What's going on in their head? I've been reading and listening to a lot of 1 John. Now, if you've read it enough and been honest enough with it, you'll know he's not very cutesy with how he says things. He's pretty much from point A to point B. He doesn't beat around the bush. If anyone says he loves God and hates his brother, he's a liar. There's no truth in him. You try going up to some church person full of vitriol about the president of the U.S. and tell them that, you might get just as much hate as they're trying to give the president. And then, to be honest, does it really even matter what religion the president is? If you can see all these Christians trying to get him usurped, dethroned, impeached, whatever they're trying to do, and then they go talk about the goodness of God like an idiot, about God's love, and then they can't wait to crucify the guy leading the country. Something don't add up with that. If you say you love God and you have this world's goods and you shut your heart up against somebody that needs them, what does that make you? What does that make me? I got a hard time opening up my house, opening up my four walls. I like my space. I like my privacy. It's not how God rolls, though. We, who were once pilgrims and sojourners, refugees in this land, and God brought us in. What's our excuse for not doing the same thing to somebody else? Oh, you have to be careful. Oh, there's so many other people that need help. Oh, they needed help for years, but I've just walked right past them. I've ignored the problem, but now there's a bigger problem that I don't want to deal with, so I'm going to focus on this other problem that I've ignored for years. Oh, you have to be cautious, though. There's bad people out there that want to hurt you. Okay. So there's common sense. So there's God's leadership, God's guidance, God's voice. If somebody needs something and you shut your heart up against them having what they need, you don't really know God. You don't have that love. I still don't have that love. I read another article. It was a pantry, like a a giveaway kind of pantry, but it was at a high school in Nebraska, I think, and just completely anonymous. There was no flyers for it. There was just all word of mouth. If some student needed something, then they get with a teacher or faculty of some kind, let them know, and the staff member will walk the student to whichever pantry. It sounded like they had a handful of them with all these different kinds of staples, just toothbrush, toothpaste, hygienic stuff, food, just necessities. And these students can pick through and get what they need. The program, I think, wasn't even 2 months old at the time of this writing, which was, I don't know, a week or two ago. And the principal estimated that 15% of the students were taking advantage of it. And it was completely anonymous. I thought, how cool is that? These people don't even have to associate themselves with a religion, with anything. They see a need and they're trying to meet it. And you see churches making these big shows about what they're doing, making sure that their left hand knows what their right hand is doing, and making sure that everybody else's left hand knows what this church's right hand is doing. God talked about doing that stuff in secret. Jesus emphasized the importance of that, and about the importance of, it's about what's in your heart. You don't have to do it for the attention, for the focus, for the reward. Not the reward from people, not the social rewards. If that's what you're after, pick a different religion, or at least shut up about being a Christian. How many of these donation centers would we need if Christians actually started putting their money where their mouth was, instead of just talking a big game and being nothing but self-centered with God's love? I still, Jesus knew the whole time that Judas was stealing from him, and Jesus was just cool with it somehow. Like, he didn't make a scene, he didn't call Judas out. I don't understand. That's something I think I'm a ways away from really comprehending, but it's in the queue. And I understand the evolution of love within our own selves. I'm on the same thing. I'm still learning how to open up, how to do things on other people's terms when I'm feeling uncomfortable. And I'm realizing that me feeling uncomfortable is just not having that much trust in God. Something I can realize it 10 times a day. It's not going to do me any good till I actually start doing something about it. But I remember, I guess it was coming up on 11 years or more ago, before I even moved down to Tulsa and made much, much larger strides towards God. I was just sitting in a little coffee shop in my little hometown in Washington. Had my headphones in, just writing stuff down with God, just transcribing a conversation, pretty much. He told me then that the light was going to get lighter and the dark was going to get darker until there's no more gray. And then I moved down here, half a country away, and heard God say the same kind of thing to other people. The fast, we're going to go faster, and the slow, we're going to go slower. And basically, there'll be no spiritual middle class. And that's where I was for a long time. That's where a lot of people are. It's easy to be in the middle because it's average. God is trying to get us out of that. Either be spiritually rich, or at least get spiritually bankrupt enough to know that you're spiritually bankrupt and that you need to do something about it, instead of lying to yourself and following leadership that does nothing but invoke the name of God and then spew hatred everywhere else. What kind of a Christian does that? What kind of a Christian doesn't try and just assess their actions and line them up with Jesus, and at least be honest with themselves about how far short they fall? That was one of the reasons I was taking a break, was because I didn't want to be that honest with myself. But it's something we all got to do if we want to get somewhere with God. If the truth was rosy and cuddly all the time, I don't think there'd be as many hypocrites. Anyway, there's keep saying it, there's separation coming. I don't know how much, I don't know if one reason it hasn't come yet is because of God's timing, or because nobody's stepping up to the plate to draw a line in the sand and stick to it, and to be able to walk that tightrope of accountability. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out too. I'm just trying to strive to be less human and more godly. Some days I put more effort into it than others. But I think it's time to double down and really push towards something. Think about the third of these people leaving the church. The other thing about that article, this author pointed out, was that the author was like, hey, these aren't just lay people in the church. These have been people in positions of leadership, worship leaders, some even pastors, associate pastors. Like they were part of the cog of the machine of how the church operated. And they just threw in the towel and walked away because they got burned out by how it was being done. What about those people? What if those people don't know how really to get closer to God? They know they want truth, they know they want God, but they don't know how to get it. They can read the Bible, maybe they're stuck with some blinders on about some of these pivotal verses that just change your perspective entirely. Who's going to help those people so they can start helping other people? It's got to start somewhere. Why not start here? There was, it's easy to focus on our own comfort and forget how Peter and Paul both are like, you're pilgrims here. This is just a tent. You're just passing by. You're an ambassador. can read that, but never really contrast it with our own sense of comfort, our own desire for stability in what we have, and not stability in God. It's going to be a big catalyst for division, I guess. You either trust God and do something, or shut your mouth about loving God and wonder why you even bother going to church. And if church is just letting you stay the same, then they don't deserve your money, or your time, or your attention, or your respect. They deserve a straight talk just as bad as anybody that plays along with them. Oh, but they're in a position of leadership. You have to respect them. Okay, well, how did Paul talk to Peter when Peter started going back to Jewish traditions of eating? Just because there were some from James that were coming. So Peter's like, oh, I got to straighten up. And then some of these Gentiles that were hanging out there that came along with Paul too, I think, they started thinking that was how you get closer to God. Paul put his foot down and called Peter out in front of everybody. Was that about disrespect? Or was that about putting truth above people's feelings? Oh well. I think I've done enough damage today, at least to myself. Beating myself up for weeks over this whole thing. So, we'll see where we go next. But if I keep doing what I need to keep doing, it's only going to get sharper. Anyway, love you guys.